You wore that costume deliberately so everybody would look at you, not at me. The rainbow bat costume, it's a classic, an image that has burned into the minds of many fans, even if some don't know exactly which comic it comes from. There was even a rainbow Batman Funko, and that's not the only action figure there's been. Actually, you could get all the rainbow costumes as Funkos, but just what is the story behind Batman's rainbow costume design? And does it live up to the fabulousness of this getup? I'm Sasha, and let's find out. Greetings, comic lovers, and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from news, comics new and old, to history, to anecdotes, to really wherever our whims take us. The Rainbow Batman is a Silver Age outing, a classic. It also has a classic Silver Age cover. That's on Detective Comics 241 from the year 1957, in a story that feels like would be right at home on the Batman TV series that would air later in the 1960s. We've been taking a look at some of the more out there covers and seeing if the story inside matches the madness on the out. This cover showcases Batman wearing a bright pink costume despite the fact that Robin is saying that it is red. You can't trick me, Robin. Maybe Robin's colorblind. Maybe something happened with the coloring. Maybe things fade over time. Maybe it's a conspiracy. I mean, if he has to wear a different color every night, which he says that he does, then he'll get to pink eventually. Where's the aquamarine bat suit? Well, in the first digital updates, this pink color was maintained. In later editions, it was corrected to red, such as Batman in the 50s, which I have. And in a way, it's a bit of a travesty. There's an entire fan love and industry embracing it being pink. Let the costume be pink. Jokes aside, recoloring it red shows a disconnect with fan culture, who had long ago embraced the coloring error and had fun with it. Oh well, we'll make our own fun. Never forget OG pink Batman. Now, if you're a fan of Silver Age randomness, I have a random announcement for you. I now have a gaming channel. It's called Enjoying Pixels, and we play some truly random games with some plots that will rival the Silver Age. It's a good time, so if you're interested, go on and check it out. We were playing through a clown dating visual novel, and now we're onto a revenge website that kills the people whose names they put in it. It's very Death Note. Anime girls. But now it's time for Rainbow Batman. Detective Comics featuring the Rainbow Batman. Writing the word rainbow with multiple colors. Nice touch. So Batman is saying he must wear a different colored bat costume every night. But why? That is the mystery, and oh what a why it is. Batman, the Rainbow Batman, is written by Edmund Hamilton with pencils by Sheldon Moldoff and inks by Stan K. When a dark caped figure flashes through Gotham City, the cry always goes up, "It's Batman!" It does? Yes, the familiar costume of the Batman is known to everyone, but now, after all these years, the great lawman changes his uniform time and time again, from one color to another, causing a whole city to wonder what garb will next be worn by the Rainbow Batman. Gotham City, a city where the people are so desensitized to all the crimes going on that they'd rather hear about Batman's outfit. Front page news. Joker attack? Forget it. What color is Batman's costume? We get a sneak peek at some of the costumes on this teaser page, including this white costume with a target on it. Excuse me? White is a shade. We open properly on Dick Grayson walking down the street when he suddenly hears a robbery in progress. But before he can change into Robin, he sees the thieves barreling down aforementioned street in their getaway car. They're heading towards a young girl, and so he springs into action and jumps in front of her, saving her. In the process of pushing them both out of the way of the car, he bangs his elbow really hard against a lamppost. The doctor tells him it's not broken, but he's not gonna be able to use it for a week or so. Gosh, that's too bad. I hope Bruce doesn't take me back to the orphanage. But what exactly did the thieves steal? The thieves stole one of our newest portable TV cameras, the one used for broadcasting special events. Dick feels that he got a good enough look at the thieves that he could identify them. But first he has to tell Batman everything that went on. This event makes the news, and Dick's name is mentioned, as well as the fact that he busted up his elbow. But why would anybody steal a portable TV camera? They'd have no use for it and couldn't sell it. Yeah, what use could anybody have for a portable TV camera? Also, I'm pretty sure someone would buy it even if it was just for parts or for kicks. There are reasons, as we'll see. Robin can't identify them from any of the pre-existing crime photos, and Batman figures the only reason they would have stolen such a camera was for a big crime that would happen at an event where broadcast cameras would be present so they could blend. So they decide that they're going to scope out all the big events in Gotham where there would be broadcast cameras, because people still host all kinds of events in Gotham despite the fact that the insurance must be insane. So that's the plan, and if Robin sees the crooks, he can identify them then and there. The first event is a parade welcoming the King of Zeronia from the land of Fictum. I made up that last part, but they made up the first part, so fair is fair. But when Batman and Robin come to monitor the parade, Batman is in a red costume, an actual red one, unlike the cover. Batman checks out all the cameramen, and Robin looks for crooks, but no dice. And the public's tongues are wagging. Why is Batman in a different costume? That's much more interesting than the King of Zeronia. Later that same day, they're summoned to help with an explosives truck that is on fire, and now Batman is in a baby blue bat costume. They're able to drive the truck into the river, but that's not what the news crews who show up want to talk about. Batman, can you tell us why you switched to a red costume and then a blue one? It could be I'm just tired of the same colored costumes. You know, I'm not giving my reasons yet. chum. The next event is the arrival of the star Marion Marley. I had to struggle not to say Marilyn Monroe because that's who they're clearly referencing. And Batman shows up in a yellow or golden bat costume for this one. And he completely upstages her. I mean, Marilyn Monroe stand-in or Batman in a yellow costume. The choice is obvious. You wore that costume deliberately so everybody would look at you, not at me. Oh man, look, they caught it all in 4K. No, it's 1957. They caught it on film. The same day at the Jewel fashion show, Batman shows up in an orange costume, which is apparently more interesting than Jewel's, and the event coordinator actually wants them to leave. Thieves, yes. Batman getting their press, no. But Robin hasn't seen the thieves he's looking for at any of these events anyways. The next event, not the same day, is a ship launching. Batman wears green to this one. Why is he doing it? Is it some kind of color code? There is nearly a disaster at this one when it turns out not all of the ropes were taken off the boat, but Batman cuts the remaining one with an axe, saving the day from gross incompetence in green. Although one official seems to think it was purposeful, and Batman says he'll figure that out next. But is someone nearly capsizing a boat and potentially destroying the pier as important as a stolen portable camera? I think not. Batman is convinced it's the same criminals who set this up. All of this to get them. Cause I mean, if they'd fallen into the water after the pier collapsed, that's an insta-death. So the idea here, his logic, is that Batman is getting too close to the real events. They need to take him out beforehand because he's showing up at all of them in these costumes. But the next event is a sharpshooter contest. So Batman decides to show up in a black and white costume with a bullseye on the chest, also on the cape. Take note, Marvel's Bullseye from the future, you could add a cape. A sniper tries to take Batman out, but joke's on him, Batman was wearing a steel vest. To the rooftop, away! That's why I wore the target costume this time. Anyone trying to take a shot at me would aim at the bullseye, and my protective armor's underneath that. It's their loss. They should have aimed for the head. Of course they're gone by the time they get to the rooftop. Now, as for the mobsters, they have no idea why Batman is dressing in all these different colored costumes, and it's freaking them out. He worries me with those queer costumes of his. Why is he wearing them? Head Dick Tracy looking goon says he doesn't care. In fact, he says it's helping them because Batman draws all the attention at these events he shows up at, because people are drawn to the fashion. They have rigged this camera so that will get them $1 million. How? Let's finally find out. You know it's the finale because Batman shows up at this one wearing the best costume yet. Maybe. Miles will vary. Next day, at the Fabulous Monies of the World exhibition, where the money is real and they have $1 million on display. What will really draw people in? That $1 million in cash. Yes. Yes, it will. Especially in Gotham. Perhaps we should hold this exhibition in Metropolis. Yeah, everyone wants to see all that money in actual cash. Yes, again, especially in Gotham. Batman shows up to guard this exhibit in his rainbow bat costume. But all the cameramen are accredited. When they get inside, Robin spots the thief right away. In an instant, Batman becomes a rainbow of dazzling action. Punched right in the face by Rainbow Batman. What an honor. The goon was reaching for a gas mask because here it is. They stole that camera so they could turn it into a booby trap full of tear gas. So they could swap it with a real camera, and then when everybody was gassed, they would go and steal the money. And Batman captures them with a Silver Age one-liner. They'll find no pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. Only prison. Sure, Batman catching criminals is nice, but that's not what the press wants to know about. What was the deal with the costumes? The public has the right to know. But he won't tell them. He says it was the last one, but why he wore them must remain a secret. Even Alfred wants to know, but he's Alfred, so he gets an answer. Batman needed to bring Robin to identify the thieves, but Robin's arm was all messed up from saving that girl, so he couldn't use it. And Batman didn't want anybody to make that connection to their secret identities, because you know it's one step from Dick to Bruce. That's why I wore such colorful, eye-catching costumes. So everyone would look at me and not Robin. But now that's over. I can quit being a peacock and become Batman again. Oh, don't pretend you were sad about it. You had those costumes on standby. They were already there. All that was missing was the opportunity. Also, were those criminals the same ones from the pier and the sharpshooting incident? I'm not convinced because they don't talk about those things at all. Was the pier incident just incompetence? And was the sharpshooter someone else entirely? Someone driven mad by Batman's bullseye costume? You would think that these criminals would have mentioned how shooting him didn't work if that was them, or be upset in some way that their plans to take him out weren't working. Instead, they talk about how it's great that he's distracting people at all these events. This story is silly, but solid. It's clearly been thought out, even if not all of the elements quite fit together, but from beginning to end it has a strong through line, and it builds up to and delivers upon certain payoffs. Even though there are hiccups, there is a rationale for the costumes, even if they themselves are a little extra. It does, particularly for the tropes of the time period, make sense. Even if you must suspend all disbelief and believe that absolutely nobody would look at Robin and notice his probably giant swollen elbow. But I mean, Robin does fight crime all the time. Batman could always say that it was, you know, from something else. He could stage an incident where he just cracks his elbow right down on the pavement in front of a bunch of people, start the rumor rumor, filmed out on a broadcast TV camera. The art on most panels with Robin does have his injured arm down, but some have him using both, which does take away a bit from the reveal, because that would have been a fun detail to go back and take note of if one had missed it. But because sometimes he's moving his elbow, it takes away from it. It makes it feel more like an afterthought than it seems to have been, because again, this reveal was crafted. The crime's pretty decent, $1 million. As is Batman going to all these prominent events. The events are easy to follow and you don't have to stretch very far. So they make for an entertaining, diverting story. It's not the deepest, but it's a fun one. Batman being so casually willing to make himself the talk of the town was also amusing. A later story, which will flash back to this issue, will cast this in a slightly different light, viewing it in a much more endearing way, though that may be the nostalgia for the issue bleeding into that comic itself. The issue where this happens is Trinity #1 from 2016. This was early in the Rebirth era, where pre-Flashpoint Superman was being reintroduced into the canon. The Trinity book was largely about him, Batman, and Wonder Woman bonding. That's the cliff notes. Other things happened. In this issue, Clark is talking to John after Bruce is put out with the boy because he blasted his shirt. They're all having dinner together. To put John at ease, Clark tells a story of how Batman has worn worse than plaid, and details the rainbow costume.
I've always associated Batman with a Robin. I don't necessarily agree with dragging a child into the line of fire, but I'll be honest, Bruce. When Dick's identity was in danger of being found out after he broke his arm, you really stepped up to the plate in protecting him.
Well, I mean, Dick's identity was at risk, but so, by proxy, was Bruce's, so it's not entirely an altruistic action. They kind of recontextualizes some of what was going on in the Silver Age story, because that's part of it, but it's also to protect both their identities.
Wearing a rainbow suit to draw attention away from Robin. Brilliant. When Dick told me the story, I just about lost it. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard.
This exchange is interesting because Bruce responds with, "I have no recollection of this. Is that a joke or for real? Because this Clark is from a different timeline than this Bruce, so he's talking about memories he didn't experience with this Bruce." That detail very much gets pushed down as time goes on, because they're trying to get back to that world's finest dynamic. But in reality, Clark is talking about all of these things with a person who doesn't know that version of him. Because he's hanging out with people in this timeline, but has memories with people from at that point an overwritten timeline. Strange vibes. There's a nice detail in this flashback of Robin holding his arm, which is a great visual cue for those who read the original story. Although again, if he'd been doing that, people probably would have noticed he's just wandering around in constant pain. Gritty Batman doing Silver Age things though, it's a mood. And the costume looks nice in this panel. They also highlighted this costume on Brave and the Bold, in Emperor Joker, which they reimagined as a Batman story. It was initially a Superman one. Batman wears multiple colored costumes before using a button on his belt to become Rainbow Batman to defeat a rainbow monster. This bravely makes his costume the rainbow one, and you also get a panel that is parallel to the cover of Detective Comics 241. And you see there, it's pink. Red. Speaking of animated tie-ins, our last video where we looked at the Silver Age cover, that was the one where the Flash was 1,000 pounds. There is a reference to that in Justice League. When Wally is having a vision because of Grodd, one of them is an homage to that cover. And since Grodd is causing it, it's also an homage to that story. Neat. As for Rainbow Batman, there are numerous action figures, not just the aforementioned Funkos. And does the Rainbow Core count as a reference? You decide. As for Rainbow Silver Age Batman, does it live up to the cover? I'd say so. The story is fun and memorable, even if it does have some internal hanging threads. Seriously, who shot him? On the whole though, it has cohesion, and the payoff reveal is decent on both the crime and the rationale behind the costume. However, where is Bullseye Batman, huh? Here he is, but for some reason he comes with Zebra Batman. This is one of those stories where the iconography tends to stay with you longer than the story itself. It keeps being referenced and may continue to be so. It is a look. But those are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Do you like Rainbow Batman? Which color was your favorite, or are you a fan of the full rainbow ensemble? Was it the same crooks who shot him, do you think? And they just didn't feel like talking about it? Nominate a Silver Age cover down below. And while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this fun day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.